special edition mega for a special edition mega. Megan breaks out the all-new JD Whisky Sours while Konrad describes the court verdict of Lina E, the left-wing radical who took De-Nazification a bit too literally. Ah, if only the Germans could love themselves a bit more. Not to worry, because the CDU has a special patriotism program, so you too can feel okay to be German. Alles wird gut.
Hello everyone. I want to say good evening, but it might not be evening when you're listening. But it's evening now. It's a beautiful sunny Friday evening in Berlin. I'm Megan. I'm here with, I've done it slightly a different way around this time. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing? I'm Megan. I'm here with Konrad Werner. Hello, Konrad.
Hello.
Ex-Berliner magazine. And it's time for another Megan's Megacant. Yay! I quite like that way around.
You're in a sunny mood.
I'm really not. I am...
To go with the weather, I thought.
No, the weather is lovely. Do not get me... Oh my God, I've just looked out. Are your strawberries in? Coming through?
Oh yeah, I've got loads of strawberries.
Mine are, they're ahead of mine.
You might...
Maybe because yours are more sunny. Mine are kind of under things, like little...
Yeah, also different varieties come out at different times, don't they? I might just have an early variety.
Well, let's hope so. So I've fucked it somehow. Anyway, yes, the weather's lovely. It's springtime. It's strawberry season, rhubarb season.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me of your cake that you made last week. That was a really good cake.
It was. I can give you the recipe. It's good. Should we, just a thought, do a podcast instead where we just, because you've got quite into baking, I'm into baking, we could just do that.
We could just do a baking podcast, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like baking question time type thing.
That sounds
like
so much better than... Or we could just drink loads of mega cans and try and bake, because it is hard baking when drunk.
It's hard to get you got to be precise with the flour.
Yeah, you do. Anyway, I was going to ask you how your week has been, but I kind of know that your week is leading us into our sort of main story today. So,
okay.
In the, I think, possibly only bit of good news we're going to have this week, do you want to know what mega can I've brought today? Do you want to guess?
Dying to find out.
It's a very exciting day. Doesn't happen very often on the podcast.
Oh, there's a new one.
Oh, yes. And not like a new shitty one, because we can't try those because they're disgusting, but like new branded mega.
Oh, wow. Like a special edition.
Do you remember you sent me a picture of it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes!
The whiskey sour.
Yes! Yes!
Amazing.
They might be listening, because I think I asked for like a whiskey sour one once. Yeah. Anyway, look.
They're secretly listening to us.
It's Gentleman Jack Whiskey Sour.
Oh, wow. It's my favourite drink.
Oh, my God.
This is what I always wanted.
Well, there you go. Should we just stop now? This is it. We've reached the pinnacle of what this podcast is going to achieve.
It's like
what you've always wanted.
Oh, look how the can's all rough.
The Gentleman Jack one is rough. I think it's because it's like, this is a man's cocktail. It's all black and...
textured. It's a textured can.
It is a textured can, like a asphalt.
Oh, I can't wait.
Right, shall we?
Yes.
All right.
Cheers.
I'm not sure I know what whiskey sour tastes like, because I don't really order them very much. All right. I hope this is not shit.
Oh, yes. I like it.
That's...
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, they were advertising these in the bus stops all over Berlin, which is probably where best place to drink a mega can. I
wonder if it's that different from like the iced tea one.
Well, it's citrusy.
Or the Lynchburg lemonade, but it is good.
Yeah.
It's a nice one.
Yeah, I really like it.
I don't really know I can't pin down the taste of a whiskey sour in my mind.
Oh, it's not one of your usual go-to drinks.
No.
No, it is mine, you see. I really like them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't like things with egg white in them. And I feel like I'm going to disappoint the barkeep if I'm like, can I have it with like the egg white? And then they might say something about chickpeas because they might think I'm vegan. And then I just want to say it's weird to have foam. I don't like foam. I just don't like
So it's
foam.
Not the egg white you don't like, it's
no,
the
it's
foam. Oh, right, yeah.
I can just about like have a beer, but I don't want foam on other drinks.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then whiskey sour is not for you.
No, but this is very nice. This doesn't have foam or eggs. Please, God, don't let it have eggs. Well, this is good. This makes up for the the fucking
it's lovely.
the 250ml gin thing that they're...
Oh, yeah, that was
Maybe they'll notice, though, because I'll have stopped buying. They'll be like, right, well, we want to save money on reducing to 250 mils of the Gordon's Mega Can, but I must be a huge chunk of their pie chart alone. Be like, wait, something's happened. All right, how has your week been, Konrad?
Well, I went to Dresden earlier this week.
Good for you.
To see the left-wing extremist Lina E be convicted for beating up some Nazis.
We talked about this before. Let me see if I can recap what I knew going into this trial. Lina E, not from Dresden, but...
No, she lives in Leipzig in the...
Yes, sorry. She lives in Leipzig in like the left-wing kind of squatty area, which I can't remember the name of.
Konowitz, yeah.
Konowitz. Okay. And she and some folks went into a well-known neo-Nazi establishment and beat up a bunch of people.
Yeah, with hammers and batons.
With hammers and batons, right.
Well, they attacked them. Some of them didn't get... Someone were injured. This was one of 6 incidents that she was being tried for.
Oh, okay.
One of them... Some of them were extremely violent. Like, in one case... a man got his face smashed in. Like he had to have metal plates put in his face afterwards. It was really terrible. The one the one you're referring to is in a well-known pub in the town of Eisenach, a little town which is also like a big Nazi, what do you call it, hub. And they just sort of ran in there, like 4 of them or something like that, 4 or 6 of them, and started smashing people up. They didn't actually injure the one they were going for. Because he was able to defend himself because he was like a martial arts kind of guy. It was like really proper violence. They were like the people they were attacking
this is
were
like
real
kind of 1930s Berlin.
Yeah,
1920s, 1930s, like early 30s Berlin, where they...
No, it was like real street fighting, you know. Yeah. They weren't just attacking random like AfD voters. They were attacking proper hardcore fighting Nazis. But obviously we can't have people having their faces smashed in with hammers. And so she was convicted for membership of a criminal organization. Right,
because this was the other thing that you talked about, whether this was kind of like random, just people going around doing this, or if it was...
There was a big uproar when she was arrested because she was taken in a helicopter to the federal court in Karlsruhe, which is kind of what you do with terrorists. So there was a bit of an uproar about that, and a lot of the case was really, really long. The trial took a year and a half, and a lot of it was to what extent she was the leader of this group and to what extent they were planning and organizing these attacks, or whether they were spontaneous or not, you know. Because the prosecution, who were asking for 8 years in prison for her, they were trying to establish that she was the ringleader and that this was a criminal organization. Then this wasn't just like a bunch of people spontaneously attacking people. So the judge agreed that it was a criminal organization, but didn't agree that she was the leader. They said that it wasn't established that she was the leader, but she was an important figure, but it wasn't established that she was the one in charge. They couldn't prove that. And also she could only be placed, the evidence was only there to place her at 4 of the 6 incidents. So she was given 5 years and 3 months in prison. But she has been in prison since the trial began, in fact for over 2.5 years, because she was considered a flight risk because her boyfriend and fiancé was also supposed to be one of this group, and he's disappeared and he's like on the run now, and so she was considered to be a flight risk because of that. So she has been, the other 3 defendants were all men. They've been free until now, and then now they have to go to prison. But at the end of this day, the judge like read out, it was a crazy day because it took over 9 hours for him to read out the judgment. He went through every single crime and explained in great detail, like painful detail, how it could be established that she was or wasn't there, because there was little evidence. They all had face coverings on, and so that they had to like prove it through different means, and it took a long time. He went through every single thing, and then at the end of those 9.5 hours, he suddenly said he was going to let her go until the conviction could be upheld. So she's actually free now because pending appeals showed a certain amount of leniency towards her. He said partly because she's already been in prison for so long. That was unusual, partly because she was sick for a while in prison, partly because of her behaviour during the court proceedings. And he said, he basically showed a bit of leniency, and he said that pending appeals, she could be let go, and then if the appeals are out and she loses the appeals, she'd have to serve the rest of her time.
Okay.
And considering with good behaviour, she would probably get out within having served 2/3 of her time, and she's already served close to half of the time anyway.
Okay.
So he said there was little flight risk anymore. So they he was kind of a bit lenient with her. And also he actually said that her motivation, which was fighting far-right extremism, could be considered commendable, but it doesn't make it any better. He said these are still serious crimes, and she would have to he said they can't just let her go, the defense is going to appeal because they don't think that there is enough evidence to convict her for everything. They said that there's a lot of, because a lot of the evidence was came from the testimony of one of her group who defected, of another left-wing extremist who defected, who was on trial somewhere else, and he kind of gave a contradictory evidence, and he incriminated her.
What's her plea?
Oh, you don't plea in Germany.
Oh, okay.
That's another thing. There's no juries and you don't plea. It's a different system.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think you might have told me that before, and I come to think
you can confess, and that is part of the evidence, but you don't plea at the beginning, guilty or not guilty.
Interesting. And no jury.
No, there's just judges. The jury system is it's a whole different thing.
The jury system is
you'd only have that in America and in Britain, but...
Okay. All right. There's a lot to unpack here, isn't there, Konrad?
Yeah. So anyway, shall I tell the end of what happened afterwards? Because it was a kind of crazy day.
Yeah, so you do this whole thing. And the thing, I don't know, my only experience in court has been 2 weeks when I was 15, 16 of work experience. I went up my godfather's a barrister.
Wow.
And I was excited. I was going to be in the High Court. Court cases I was watching a lot of Ally McBeal.
Yeah.
They're very boring.
Yeah, the real ones are kind of...
Even ones that are technically a 16-year-old horrendous murder, which obviously that's not... But if you're a 16-year-old and there's all this,
Yeah.
very CSI kind of... So you've gone through this 9.5 hours, and then you get to he hands down the conviction.
Yeah, that's the first thing that happens is he says guilty or not guilty, and he says how many years in prison, and there were 4 defendants altogether, so he had to talk to all of them. But the exciting the thing is, it was in a special courtroom as well. It was a courtroom slightly outside the town of Dresden, which was a high security courtroom, and there was a helicopter hovering overhead. There were police everywhere. There was a demo, but it wasn't a very big demo. The big demos came later in the town.
Yeah. And
when
what
we
was
went
the demo?
It was all her
in support of her.
Yeah, leftist friends. They were all Alta Norman, they're called. There's the Antifa, basically.
Okay.
And one of them had a banner. They had this banner that said, "Respect to those who do it themselves." And there was a figure with a rucksack with a hammer poking out of it, there's quite a militant atmosphere, and those people, they do not like the press. They are it's a kind of an insular group. I told you about the time I went to Konowitz. I took a photo because there'd been some riots there or something. There was a photo, and I took a photo of a barricade that was still there. And this guy came up to me. I was just on the street, and guy just came up to me and says, "What are you doing?" And leave now. They have a
vibe.
There's a strong, what would you call it, a community. And in Konowitz, throughout the trial, they were collecting money for her defense fund and everything. So half the gallery was for the press, and the other half was for the spectators, and that was full of all her friends and family. Her mum was there. So it was just
What age is she?
28.
Okay.
And so they all came in, and then first the male defendants were brought in.
Yeah.
And there was a big loud cheering and clapping, and they were waving to everyone.
And then when she came in a few minutes later, everyone stood up and were really clapping really loud, like loads of support. It was like she was like the star of the show, like there was a real, and they were chanting like these slogans and everything.
Wow.
And after it was like a real like atmosphere in there. And and also the gallery was like lined with the security officials from the court, and also police were there.
Aren't they always everywhere?
So it was like there was a tense atmosphere because they really hate the police,
Yeah.
And so and they were behind. So the gallery was behind glass, so you couldn't like obviously throw anything or get into the courtroom itself. But then, so the judge read out, and the judge was kind of tense at first, and he read out the judgment and everything. And then he said, and then they were already like, when he read out the length of the sentence, there was always like groans of scorn and outrage from the crowd. Like they were really angry about this 5 years, and about each of the male defendants got around 3 years as well. Like the judge said, you either stay here and be quiet and listen to me reading the rest of the reasoning, the rest of the reasoning of the verdict, or you leave, right? And then people and he said, if anyone wants to know why the judgment is as it was, you can stay. And then someone shouted out, because you're all Fascho-Freunde. It was a bit, Rick from the Young Ones a little bit. Like, you're all fascists. It was a little bit like that. And then that guy was kicked out. Like that immediately he said, and immediately the judge said, stop, right? 15 minutes break. I want whoever shouted out to be led away, And then he was picked up by security and pushed out, and he had to leave.
Yeah.
And then, but that wasn't the end of it. Like there was, throughout the reading of the verdict, every now and then there was something, every time the judge said something they didn't like, there was like boos and groaning and scoffing laughter and sarcastic.
This sounds, it's to take the human, it sounds kind of entertaining, particularly after 9 hours of pedantic going through like all the things, to have a bit of...
Well, yeah, then that was, so it was like, the whole day was either extremely boring, or then every now and then something really exciting would happen. And then there was an incident where he had to interrupt again because someone was shouting out something, and then there was a kind of a scuffle with the police and stuff, and they got pushed out, and they were squaring up to the police outside. They were saying, they were like, "Fass mich nicht an," and into their faces, "Do not touch me." Yeah, and then other people, like, so there was a couple of TV cameras there, and then the other people were like covering up the TV, like they were putting out their hands over the TV camera lenses, so that they couldn't film. And then there was like a little bit of a scuffle between the TV people and the Autonomen as they were like, being pushed around. So yeah, there was like a tense atmosphere all day, you could say. And then that spilled over, and then of course there was a lot of relief, and she was in tears at the end when she realized that she was going to be free for now.
Yeah.
The defense said a statement after this 9 hours of talking. It's like, I can't explain how incredibly detailed his
imagine.
He spent 10 minutes just talking about the train timetables between Leipzig and Dresden to explain why she would have been at this one place at one time,
It really, really is. And I think you can kind of just like go in, can you, to courts? I don't know. It's sort of interesting, but
there's always
to go and see the process. But they were doing blood analysis when I was in there, and it's seared into my memory. Like they had to, for every sample that they had, and there was a lot, go through the probability of it being a match to the victim. So that was just them reading out these numbers and going, the probability that this is a match to the victim is this, and this, the probability it's not a match is
exactly.
For I think over an hour, there was so much blood. And it was just, and you're trying to think like, this is terrible, I'm so bored, but this is like someone's life has been lost in this awful. And I think and I remember being quite sort of shocked that the judge was kind of joking around and stuff, and I was like, how can you joke at this? But that's his job. He's just doing his job. And it is that intersection of the worst points in people's lives, or like these really human stories, but also like the state apparatus and our judicial system is like, that's what they are. So it is going to be either really exciting or really
Well, yeah, the reason why it took so long as well is because they had no DNA evidence linking her with any of the crime scenes. They had DNA evidence of her boyfriend, who was at one of them, you know, and then the defense criticized the fact that they said, oh, just because her boyfriend was there doesn't mean that she was there. You know, this is Bonnie and Clyde logic, they said, and all this other stuff. And so that's why it kind of like it took so, and that's why the whole trial took a year and a half. And so now protests have been already started in Leipzig, in Berlin, and in Dresden on Wednesday night. And there have been rumors that they've been amongst the Linke Autonom scene that they were going to cause €1 million worth of damage for every 1 year of the conviction of all 4 defendants. So that adds up to about 13 years. So they were going to have a big demo, I believe, on Saturday in Leipzig, but that has been banned now by the authorities. And so, but something will probably happen. And yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I have a lot of thoughts about this, and I knew we were going to talk about it today. What are your...
Well, I think I do have quite a lot of sympathy for them, because apparently she became radicalized in the aftermath of the discovery of the NSU. She was born in Kassel, where one of the NSU murders happened. That's this Nazi terrorist group.
Yeah, who went undetected for years.
For many years.
Because they were just randomly killing people with predominantly Turkish and Arabic backgrounds. And the police were like, that's just, them killing each other over gang stuff. And their families were like, but they weren't in a gang. They were like...
And she was born in the city where one of these murders happened, in Kassel. And so I think that... and she obviously came into these circles where they really don't trust the police and they don't trust the state, and those, you can kind of imagine that. And also the other thing is, I think, is that this whole left-wing scene, which is quite big in Germany, they're kind of like Germany's conscience, they kind of like, I could kind of think of them, like, I've not had a lot to do with them, but every time, I've been when I report during the refugee crisis, for example, and you remember the Willkommenskultur and people waving in Munich. The first people who were there were all the Autonomen. They were the left-wing people were the first people who were there. You should be scared to be a Nazi in Germany. I mean, you should be scared. That is the right thing to feel for you. Like you shouldn't. You should feel like you're not part of society. This is not
sort of civilians who are maybe a bit frustrated and for whatever reason are misguidedly putting their faith in like the AfD or some kind of other thing. This is like hardcore Nazi.
Yeah.
No two ways about it. And I think this is really interesting. Like, I had a conversation with a friend midweek about this. She was like, oh, have you heard about this? And I was like, yeah, but the thing is, you can't kind of have people going around smashing in people's faces with hammers. But it's so much more. And on one level, you can't. And it's a little bit like, all of these kind of movements, like the Klima protesters they've also been classified as a criminal You can't fucking move for criminal organizations we're all in one by the end of the week, probably in Germany. Oh God, I forgot what I was saying. This is delicious. I've drunk quite a lot of it.
Oh, I'm loving it. I might go and get another one soon.
Oh.
I probably won't. Anyway, but yeah, and the other time that I had that sort of directly saw what they do, these Autonomen, is when there was the trial of the Auschwitz accountant in Lüneburg in 2015. He was like a 90-year-old man, and he was on trial because he was a guard in the not a guard, he was the accountant of Auschwitz. It was clear that there were going to be Nazis in the courtroom. They were clear that because one of the famous there's this famous old lady who denies the Holocaust, and she keeps getting put in prison for it. She keeps saying that the Holocaust didn't happen. She keeps handing out flyers and saying, and eventually, if you do that enough, you have to spend time in prison. So she was going to be there, and this was a big high profile trial that was happening. And there were also going to be Holocaust survivors in there, like the people who had traveled from the United States to either testify in the trial or just to watch the trial. And, like we're talking about 90-year-old Jewish people. they were scared, you know. Like, this is happening in 2015, and I got there in the morning, and it was like 7 a.m. in the morning, and the outer Norman had like occupied the entire queue. They'd got there like at 5 in the morning. They'd been there really early, and they'd occupied the entire queue.
This is the German left. They're fucking punctual. They may be anti-state, but they are there on time. Yeah. They are organized.
Yeah. and then every time a Holocaust survivor came, they gave up their place in the queue. Like they occupied the queue so the Nazis couldn't get in, and that's
brilliant.
And they succeeded. Like, and that if they hadn't been there.
Yeah,
there would have been neo-Nazis in the audience at that Auschwitz trial. Wow. And I think that kind of stuff, I mean, and that's because I'm not saying, obviously it's different when you go out beating people in the head with a hammer, but these are organized left-wing anti-fascist groups, and they serve a purpose in society, and they especially serve a purpose in German society, which is, I think, I don't know, I find it, I kind of think, like, if any country needs them, it's Germany, you know. Yeah. and they are slightly militant, and they are really much against the establishment and the state and everything, and you know they don't like to talk to journalists like me. But I don't know. I feel like they kind of are like the conscience of Germany in a way.
I think so, and I think this is the other, and I think this is the point that my friend made there when I was talking, was like, you should be scared to be a Nazi in Germany. You should feel constantly scared, which you should, because that is what your ideology is, that you want other people, like fascism is a bullying, nasty thing driven on you consolidating power through the subjugation of other people. So you should feel scared all the time, particularly in Germany. And the thing is, it is all very well and good for us to say, yes, but you can't like do this. But if the state if the state is not doing enough to reckon with, and to use your point again, there should be no other fucking nation on earth which is reckoning more with fascism and its potential dangers or what's happened in the past than fucking Germany. But we're not doing it properly. We're absolutely not. We've got a poll this week that the AfD are on the same, they're polling joint second with the SPD.
Yeah, they're both on 18%, yeah.
18 fucking %. That's almost 1 in 5 people are like, maybe let's give populism another go.
Yeah.
Because I'm disaffected with the other parties. Like, no, fuck you. There's something like whatever it is, we haven't worked on it, and so I find it deeply icky. This trial is now that this one young woman is the one followed by helicopters, and yeah, should you probably do some time for smashing people with a hammer? Yeah. Should you maybe not do that? That's not the conversation that we really need to have. But that is the conversation that in a lot of circles will be had. Yeah, but she's gone too far. Yeah, but they've all gone too far. Thing, rather than going, well, why are they the conscience of Germany?
Yeah.
Why are the Christian fucking Democrats not the conscience of Germany? Why are the Green, why?
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Christian Democrats...
No.
Would you like to hear what they've been doing?
No, I know. You told me a small amount, and now I really don't want to hear it after you've just given me all of these details. And I've become radicalised and I'm about to go out and join the Autonomen.
The CDU thinks that...
And actually, sorry, just for non-German, Autonomen... it is that like thing they do them themselves. They're telling us their reason to exist because no one else is fucking doing this work. No one else is protecting those old Holocaust victims. No, they're just not, because the state won't roll its sleeves up and get fucking interested. They're rather doing their stupid political nonsense games. Yes? Tell me more about the fucking CDU. Fucking fucks.
So last week, this is actually a week old, this news, but...
Who cares?
Last week...
It'll just be the same fucking shit.
Do you know why the 23rd of May is a special day for Germany? This should come up in your. This might come up in your Einbürgerungstest. If you become a citizen.
Think that I will fucking. I don't want to do a test. Can you give me a clue? Something to do with CDU?
It's something to do with...
Oh, you said Constitution, is it? Is it like that? What's that when the Constitution was signed in 48 or brought into something?
Yeah, 49.
23rd of May, 1930. Brilliant, lovely. Class.
So it was the day that the Grundgesetz was adopted in 1949.
1949.
When the Federal Republic was founded. Yeah, you should definitely know that if you're going to do the Einbürgerungstest.
Well, they're going to fucking Einbürgerung me, like, right away.
Okay.
You make me a German citizen, or I've had enough.
I will kick off. So the CDU brought in a proposal to the Bundestag saying that this day should be a day of national, a day of commemoration,
Are you
celebration.
going to give me the day off?
Possibly, yes.
Right,
It's another day in May that would be a day off.
Class. I honestly have not done any proper work for weeks.
And they want to combine this with a new program of federal patriotism.
Oh, fuck me.
This is the CDU's proposal. This would include, it's a bit vague, it's only a 3-page document, doesn't say much. It says point A was they would like to increase the year-round visibility of national symbols in public space.
We think we'd like to fly some German flags all the time, not just at the football, please, because at the moment it's just, the flags are just, if you see it outside of the World Cup or the Euros, it's Nazis. Right, continue, yes?
They would like to hear the German national anthem.
No. What, more?
More public ceremonies.
Not just the football. All right, class.
And then the rest of the stuff is a bit like, we should just like have been a bit more positive about Germany. The other thing is, it's not, but one of them, towards the end, is also a concrete proposal, and that is to have the armed forces put on more public displays and parades than...
I'm sorry. I'm fucking
roll
sorry.
Well, I mean, they do this in France and Britain. There's
but
more
they didn't have Hitler! Like, how many times? What? I cannot get over this. I cannot, surely... No one.
Not parades, not like parades, but more sort of be more visible in public. They were sort of said like, like...
Right.
Gelöbnisse und Appelle.
What the fuck is a Gelöbnis?
It's like I think it's like a public vow. And an appell is a roll call, like a pledge. And this is supposed to show the connection between the armed forces and civil society, and see this as a patriotic thing. This is like one of the ideas, signed by Friedrich Merz and Alexander Dobrindt, who is the parliamentary leader of the CSU.
Fucking cunt. Right. Okay, and you were saying that their argument is that we want to reclaim patriotism from the far right.
Yes.
Right.
They think that society's become too polarized and fragmented, and this would help to bring people together under the values of the Constitution, and they want to. They're going for what is it's called constitutional patriotism. Like what does and it is the German Constitution is good, I think.
Oh, it's great. Like, don't get me wrong. Of course, like they were all feeling in the way that you promise after you got a massive hangover that you're never going to drink again, and you write a whole list of ways in which you're going to improve your life and never, ever, 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 ever do anything as stupid as that ever again, or as awful because you hate yourself. Like, great. That's a great time for a country to write a constitution. But fuck, this is the thing, right? First of all, what has the army got to do with the constitution of Germany?
Well, it's supposed to be like a parliamentary army, It's democratically controlled, unlike, for example, the US Army, which can be sent out by the president on his own.
That's lovely, but that's not what people are going to take away from more army you can't take things out of their context. So, admittedly, I have not read the whole thing, but you have. Is there anything in this document which separates it from just like commoner garden, slightly conservative, very conservative patriotism? Like, is there anything about kind of radically going back to what was discussed in 48 and 49 about the potential of Germany to be something other than...
Well, it's there's a thing about point G is...
How many points are there?
It goes up to K.
Jesus.
Point G is that the non-Germans, Ausländer, living in this country... should feel a connection and feel like they're invited in the potential of patriotism. I'm trying to translate on the fly because it's in German sentence, really complicated. But they should feel like they're being connected and invited to join in as part of the identity with the German state, sort of thing.
But that's assimilation. That's not integration, because the CDU, as far as I'm aware, not really big proponents of dual citizenship.
No.
You can't be a teacher in Berlin if you wear a headscarf, but you are invited to celebrate Germany at a military, if not a parade, something else.
Yeah.
Class. Great. Lovely. Anything else?
Point F is about East Germany, and they described it as a weak point in the reunification that... The East Germans don't feel this connection with the German nation in the way that people would like, and feel this sort of
And so, what
pride.
are they suggesting out there?
Well, they think that this history should be worked through, aufgearbeitet, as the German word is, worked through, confronted, examined, re-examined. Why do East Germans not feel like they're part of Germany, and how to deal with that.
Look, I'm not really suggesting that this document was written completely in bad faith.
But
the CDU are losing voters to the FD. Not at the moment, though, because the coalition are doing such a fantastic... they seem to be leaking voters.
Yeah.
And also the media are determined to...
it
seems to, really say, but they... even the AFD, they were, saying today, apparently some of the commentary on this 18% of AFD is well, they're saying that they're satisfied with their coalition partners and there's all of this strife and everything. Is that not kind of a healthy coalition? So, I don't know. It's weird. I've really drunk quite a lot of this mega can. I haven't had a huge amount to eat today.
Okay.
What was I going to... So, right, you've got the CDU and they want votes and they like patriotism.
Yeah, they think that the AfD have taken over the issue of patriotism.
Right. So on the one hand, what they want to say is let's take back control of patriotism, and we want to make it their framing is great. Don't get me wrong. Let's look at, or their idea, the fundamental idea, let's look at the Constitution. Because it's one of the really cool things about Germany. It's right in there, the what is it? Something of the untastbar,
the first line, is the dignity of human beings is untouchable, is inviolable. I think
it's brilliant. It's like a modern, it's so cool. It's one of these documents you can't really. And then what I would imagine is that is how it's framed, and then what we seem to have is a fairly typical list of things that conservatives think that we should feel about our country, army. Yeah. Great. Let's just army things. Feeling good about Germany. Oh, we recognize this, so it's and I don't know whether that is just kind of ignorance, a lack of doing the actual thought, which I've seen Friedrich Matz's fucking no, or just a willful kind of manipulation, or in part all three. I don't know, but no thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the other problem with this is that this isn't something that can be imposed by the government anyway. I mean, they can do all this, but it doesn't mean that people will feel it. And I think that this is something that you have to change in the culture. And I just think that it's not really a top-down issue. I think you can't.
No.
You can do whatever you want, but it doesn't mean that people like. It's different in France, I think, because there is like that's part of the national culture, and they really identify with these values of the. And when you go to France, you know, you do see the tricolor everywhere on every building, and it does it means something to their they know what each color means, you know, and the people that do the do you know what the German colors mean? I read about it today. It's an original.
I feel
thing.
like I do, and then I immediately forgot.
So it's rooted in the a little bit of history for you.
Oh, in the like 1848.
Before that though. It's actually the.
I did know
Napoleon.
this, but I have forgotten. Like,
so the first people that wore it were the Prussian, the like individual corps of the in the Prussian army fighting against Napoleon when they were freeing Europe from Napoleon, and they.
Or reimposing the status quo.
And so the black stands for. I'm
trying to be patriotic. I'm throwing my why not?
It stands for like the subjugation to Napoleon. The red is the blood of the battlefield, and the gold is the golden freedom that you win through battling. So you fight. It's actually a story of going from black. That's why it's black, red, gold. Because it goes from the black of subjugation to the glory of freedom in gold at the end, and you have to go through the red because that's
that's
fighting.
not as fun somehow.
Well, that's apparently the original story of it.
Interesting.
And then in 1848 was the year when it was adopted by the National Assembly and became the colours of the German Confederation at the time.
Okay.
And it came out of the revolutions and all that stuff.
I mean, the thing is, by all means, I don't think that patriotism in and of itself is necessarily a bad thing. Everything is about context. And you can be the CDU and produce this fucking document, but the context is that you have a country where, as you put it, Germany's conscience, and for better or worse, like, they are fucking showing up and doing the work that other people are not prepared to do. Like you said, making sure that Holocaust survivors are taken care of, welcoming fucking refugees, making Nazis feel threatened in a country that claims to constitutionally insist on the equality of everybody and that nobody gets basically fucked about by any other group or murdered in their fucking millions. So you've got the conscience of Germany feeling no connection with the German state whatsoever, and the German state working in all these just like shitty ways, and then your solution to this problem is supposed to be, or what you think is going to help, is this kind of top down, this is what patriotism, this is what we should do. But it's actually just like, no, it's a cynical move to, it's not going to bring people back from the AfD. It's just going to muddy the waters a bit. So you don't know who's a patriotism, out of kind of constitutional grounds or racist grounds.
No.
And I think that serves the CDU quite well. Like, I don't think they would actually have a problem with going into government. If not on a, you were saying like on a Bundes level, but like on a state level. Like, it makes me nervous.
Yeah, I know. It is bad, yeah. And also, I just don't think that's why people vote AfD, is because, no one's being patriotic enough. I mean, I don't think that's why. It's because they're racist. And
they can say, like, these polls as well, like, I support them because the breakdown that I got was a much larger percentage of them say, of respondents to the thing, I support the AfD because I am dissatisfied with the other parties. And then a smaller percentage was like, because I support the goals of the AfD. And everyone knows that socially that's not really that kind of, So of course everyone's going to fucking say it.
No.
Am I going to say in a poll, like, should people be smashed in the face with hammers? No. What do I really think?
Good point. I've run out of things to talk about.
I've run out of things to talk about. I don't think Germany's done a good job of reckoning with the history of National Socialism.
Good. If you take nothing else away from this podcast, then remember that.
Fuck that. Go and get a whiskey sour mega cam. No, obviously, yes, do support your local criminal organisation. But like one of the good ones. One of the ones that's only a criminal organisation because the state is
scared of what's
what did they say? Fascho-Freunde?
Fascho-Freunde.
But you're all Fascho-Freunde.
Weil ihr Fascho-Freunde seid.
I mean, it's hard not to think that that's true, though. All right.
Well,
thank you for the news, Konrad. I hated it.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for bringing these amazing cocktails
these were great.
in a can.
God, what a time to be alive.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Follow us on...
We love you.
Sponsor us on Patreon if you like.
Give us some money. Or give money to other causes.
Yeah, or just
may
give
not
money
be
to...
branded as criminal,
matter.
so we probably shouldn't tell you to do it. But
Okay. Okay, good.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.